Okay, so good night, everyone. I am so glad that you guys are here and we are back again for another great evening. Welcome back to Confidence in Color. I'm excited. It's like a little fireside chat. Just we don't really have a fire, but hopefully your heart is so filled with love for yourself and all the special someones in your life that you are already feeling the warmth of the room. A matter of fact, in the chat, if you can actually drop one thing you love about yourself or the name of someone you love, right? And let's kind of hold space for them and honor all of that in this moment. So I'm going to give you a second to drop that in the chat for me. Something you love about you or the name of that special somebody that you love. Put them there. We're excited to have you guys tonight. Okay, beautiful, 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 beautiful. So Confidence in Color is your opportunity to be seen, heard, celebrated, and be poured into. Tonight's topic is all about love. And, you know, also Valentine's Day, so how fitting, right? So we might as well welcome all that love into the room. It's, you know, one of the many conversations that we've been hosting this week with thought leaders, motivational speakers, and everyday women just sharing their insights, their wisdoms, strategies for building confidence and embracing our true selves. My name is Amanda Flood, the curator of this experience. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and mindset coach for women in business. I support leaders with navigating stress and burnout so that their people can thrive. And I support my women entrepreneurs as well with the mindset needed to conquer their fears and dominate their business. Last night, we tapped into our identity and what we've had to give up to belong, right? With two-time TEDx speaker, M.M. Washington, who's also in the room tonight again. Thank you for coming back. She helped us reflect on the value of our stories, and we were given questions to dial back up our confidence. It was dope. Tonight, we're getting into Love Actually with our guest, Natasha Smith. Natasha is a fellow social worker with her MBA, a networking strategist, a realtor, and investor, as well as my really good friend. And I'm really proud of the woman that she's become since our days at UConn, trying to mentor freshmen while we were winding down the place at the African American Cultural Center. So shout out to all my Caribbean Massive 2 in the audience. Y'all feel free to drop y'all flag. But we were doing the thing. And I'm just so proud that we've stayed connected for all these years. Sasha was also my bridesmaid at my wedding almost like 16 years ago. Crazy how time flies. And you know, I can't wait for you to just get a piece of her tonight, right? So Sash, feel free to give us a little introduction about you, and then we're gonna dive right into Love Actually. You're on mute, my sunshine.
So thank you for the wonderful warm introduction. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there. Sasha Smith, you can follow me at I am Sasha Smith and PeachValley Co., which is my brand. So a little bit about me. I think Amanda said quite a bit, but I have just always been a lover, a nurturer, a carer. So it wasn't surprising when I got my MSW in community organizing, got to do a lot of stuff, meet amazing activists and do great work. And then shifted in 2015 to business, completely opposite side of the track, got involved in tech, did some tech consulting and real estate. But there's one thing that was always really kind of special in my heart, and that was helping people. So even though I was in business, I literally 3 times my income going from social work to business, I still found myself, for example, trying to advocate for women in tech or Black people in tech, or people, you know, being able to get affordable housing. So I think that's just one thing about me that will never leave, and that's what makes me special, and that's what I love about myself, is that I can never stop caring about others.
Love it. So kind, warm, bubbly, beautiful. And I think that that love is really evident in all the things that you do, right? And tonight, I can't wait to hear a little bit more about this, and we're going to dive right in. So can you tell us what Love Actually is all about and how it fits into your journey as a Black woman?
Yes. So Canadian born, Caribbean descent. And, I think just growing up in the time that we grew up in the 90s with MTV, and remember getting my first Facebook account at UConn. I think I was like a sophomore. I remember my friend Hillary Jones. I don't know if you remember her. She's also like social worker nurturer, created my account. And I think we just got lots and lots and lots of messages. There's lots of messages about what love is, right? So there's what you get in your home with your family. Parents, I think, are kind of one of the starting examples of what love is and how they demonstrate love to you. And then, I remember as like a young girl stealing my mom's like Danielle Steele and Amanda QuickBooks. And so I was, then curious probably from like, preteen that like, oh, love and sex, that's a coordinating, or love is when people talk about love, they're talking about a relationship with their partner. But then as you get older, you end up loving your friends, people like Amanda, loving, some people love their bosses, love their jobs. And I think that what love actually really is, I'll just get right to the punchlines since this is a quick chat, is really about loving yourself and emulating what you want yourself, your inner thoughts and heart to reflect, and being able to actually get others to see that. I think that's what love actually is. And when it comes down to loving others, it's really actually about loving them with all that they bring, all the good, and even more so the bad. So the whole saying that we say in the Caribbean, like loving someone with all their faults, it's really, really, really hard. And I think people confuse that. They think that love is just always peachy, always rosy. There's no fighting, there's no anguish, you're never mad. And that's not true, right? Because we go through moments like that with ourselves all the time. And so I think that that's what love is really about. And so I took the title from one of my favorite holiday / love movies, which is Love Actually. So if you have not seen it, you should see it. But the premise of the movie is based in London, and it follows the journey of 6 people and the different types of love that can exist. So there was love of someone who loved his boss and his manager and loved what they created together. There was a stepdad and a son, and the mom had passed, and so it was the love of this stepson and the father and what that was like. There was love of married people and all different types of love, right? And so I dearly love my dog, right? So I think even though she drives me nuts lately, she's been a barkaholic. But yeah, it's just loving yourself first, and dealing, as you said, mentioned, right? Dealing with your own stuff, trauma, imposter syndrome, whatever that is. And once you're able to really get through that, which I think normally for a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, that usually happens a little later in life, probably around 25. Once you understand who you are and loving yourself, you're completely able to really open up and love others. So.
Yeah, I would agree. And I love what you're talking about, where it's like this balance of who we are, right? And getting to know that person a whole lot better, and like the outside world, right? And also this idea of how do we get them to really see us and kind of love us in the same way. And I think that's a great segue to, where we're going next, because society influences us so much, right? So I'm curious for you, how does the expectations of society impact things like our confidence, or even how we love ourselves, or even how we show up in romantic relationships, especially for women of color? Like, it's always a little extra difference for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm an NPR junkie. And today I was listening to Valentine's Day, they always do like love books and that sort of thing. And there's this woman of color, I wish I had caught her name. She's best friends with the poet Sophia. And she's talking about her new memoir coming out, which all about, loving herself and all the stuff that she dealt with in relationships. And one of the things that she said is when she was looking to get this published, it was hard to find that Black publishers don't ever want to hear stories of like Black women's love. They're cool with us doing self-help all day, therapy, those types of things. But our love stories, which as we know, could be traced back, even to love stories, right? In slavery, during slavery, right? Just all of those stories, they are not portrayed. So love for us, just being you and Amanda, right? Being Caribbean and descendants. I'm the first one born off the island of Jamaica in my family, right? We don't see those images and stories and all those love stories. So it's definitely, we see it more now, but then there's also the juxtaposition of social media, for example. So, you know, the average person living in the world, you see actually 10,000 messages a day, whether it's billboards, notifications on your phone, news, whatever it is. And most of the time, you know, you can go days or weeks without seeing or reading about love stories or love, a Black woman's love, right? That we are not portrayed in the media all that well. We're obviously getting better. I think, you know, things like Insecure, great, great, great. Not to, you know, be a show buster if you haven't seen the end, but I think how they wrapped it up is really about like Issa loving herself, which then allows her to put love into the atmosphere. So it's something that's really important, which is why I'm doing this here today, which is why I admire what you're doing, because we don't see a lot of Black women stories about love out there. And so it can really, you know, it really can affect who we are, but we're so resilient. And I think we're so confident that we don't let that stop us and reflecting of who we want to be and what we are. But yes, we definitely need to see more wonderful Black love stories about Black women.
Representation matters,
It
right?
does.
I think, yeah, and if you could think about, and it's for everybody, you can always drop it in the chat too, like, where did you learn about love from in terms of like TV and media? Like, where do you see it, you know, offhand, even though it might be a little controversial, like the Cosbys come to mind, right? But it's hard to aspire to something when you don't see it. So you're right, we need more of that modeling because it's out there and it's possible, right? Even though I know there's a lot of women that are looking for it, and that's hard sometimes. And I think even sometimes within that, like we start to question ourselves more. I feel like I see that a lot too, where maybe it's that I'm not good enough, or, you know, something I did or I made the wrong choice, especially if we chose like our career over finding love, that we all of a sudden, I don't want to use the word regret, but like we're harder on ourselves because of it, you know? So for you, how have you begun to shift like some of those narratives around either if it's just finding love or loving ourselves?
Yeah, so to be very honest and sharing, I have been going through years of therapy to deal with a lot of these things. Since I was a teenager in college, certainly went, and I think that it was really just the self-discovery of who I am outside of my parents, outside of my family, outside of school, outside of my job. Like, who is Sasha and what does Sasha want and how does Sasha want to love herself? And I think once, you know, you hear, even I saw a story right on Shade Room or something, right? Women are posting, I just manifested and wrote down what I want and committed to, if I knew me, would I want to love me? Would I want to date me? Would I want to be involved with me? Would I want to be in love, marry me, whatsoever? And so when you focus on that part of yourself, you often find, you'll hear all these stories about women talking about, as soon as I did that and I left and just focused on bringing joy to my life, myself, and what I want, then you hear all these stories about, and I found my husband 6 months later, 1 year later, you know, whatever it may be, right? And so the importance of self-love to me was definitely something that I started to explore from like Chicken Soup for the first Chicken Soup book that came out when I was a preteen, and really just kind of discovering like, what is this love thing? And I knew from a young age that love was not the same for everyone. And I think that's also like an image, a thing we have to get out of our head. So whoever I love and marry, it's not going to be the same as you and your husband. It might not look the same, it might not feel the same, and that's okay, right? And I think that's probably one of the things that especially us women of color, we get really caught up in. It has to be this way, it has to be this big wedding, it has to be the bridal, you know, all of these things that society, you know, wants us to feel like are important. They are if they're important to you, but they don't have to be. Your love doesn't have to be that way. So
Your love doesn't have to be that way, right? We can define what that looks like, right? And how we do that, I think, There's so much out there now in terms of how it should be. It's got to be this big glam thing, right? It's got to be the man of my dreams. It's got to be X, Y, and Z. So I think we may have to start to look at love actually. What does it actually mean to you? What is your actual definition of it? And maybe even, do you actually love yourself too?
Yeah.
Do you think like what you attract will be a reflection of if you actually love yourself?
Yeah, they say that's the case, right? So if, again, one of the things I did dating coaching during the pandemic, shout out to Stacey J. And one of the things that she said was, would you want to date you right now?
That's a good question.
Like, would you want to, shout out to Stacey J, would you want to, as you are, date you right now? So all the things, you want the guy to be fit, you want him to make 6 figures, you want this or that or whatever. It's like, are you reflecting that? Because that's what you have to be to attract that. So I think that's really, really important, and something that I've definitely, thankfully, prayed I've gotten to that place in my life where I can honestly say I love myself. I'm perfectly imperfect. And that's kind of the love that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I love the perfectly imperfect, because we've got to accept that too, that part of loving ourselves, it may not always look how we want it to look, and we may not show up how we want to show up. There's going to be a lot of imperfections, and that's okay too, right? All of that is just who we are, you know? The good and the bad, we got to love it, and everything in between. So what advice would you give to the next woman listening on how to love actually?
Yes. So this is something, the past year, I just feel like I've had a lot of my Black women friends and family just being really negative and disappointed with the dating scene. I don't know if it's COVID or whatever it may be. And one of the things I've been saying to a lot of women of color is we need to, and whether you're in the LGBTQI or if you're heterosexual, but particularly with us heterosexual Black men relationships, is that us as Black women, we really need to evaluate and maybe not be so hard on Black men. And I know I might get a lot of slack for that, but what I'm saying is, you know, we are for those in America, we have a certain system that's set up that's not always advantageous for people of color, particularly Black men and Black women in a different way, right? And so when, for example, a Black man wants to come home, you know, he definitely has dealt with a lot on the outside just from the moment he left the house till coming back. And so one of the things that I would say to us Black women, especially, you know, last week, we just had another shooting, you know, a cop killing of a Black man. We need to probably give a little bit more grace to our partners and not put so much pressure on them to be perfect, because we're not perfect, right? And so it's, you know, what I learned back in college, I statements, you know, I feel X, Y, and Z. Can we talk about this? Is this not a good time to talk about it for you? Yes, and that's kind of what I mean about grace. You know, we definitely need to improve everybody can always improve their communication skills. I think that's something that I would recommend. Journaling is something that I think that's really helped me. Even if I'm dating or with somebody and I'm upset at them, I have now, instead of resorted to, because I can be that, I've now write a note. I might not send it. I most of the time, to be honest, don't send it because I want to.
You got to get out like all that initial frustration and angst first, right?
I do that a lot. With dating, for sure, like writing, and then taking a day or two, and I look back and it's like, oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't send that.
Really is.
So I think that we have to give grace to our partners, especially partners of color, a little bit more, because there's an extra added layer of life dealing out there when we step outside of our homes. So that would be my first tip. And then my second tip would definitely be to know exactly what you want. And I know you hear this all the time, but I don't think I really got it again until my dating coach. So my dating coach recommends that you have to have your top 15 things and what you want. So I'll share, for example, one of mine is I'm a
big list, 15, child. Okay. Woo.
Yes. And you're supposed to have 15, and you have to have your top 8 memorized and ranked in order. Ooh. So if you don't even know that for yourself, how can you be out there
What are you
looking
really looking
or
for?
being available. If you don't
Yeah.
know, memorize it, know it. So I'm a sapiosexual, which means I'm really attracted to someone who's smart. I have to be with somebody who is worldly, meaning either they appreciate my culture, they're open to other cultures. If I say, let's go out to Senegalese for dinner, they're like, I'll try it once. You don't have to love it, but at least be willing to try it, right? So like, those are some of my big things. And you have to know those, know thyself, right? And I think once you do that and really do that work, it's very easy when you're outside of the world and you're like, no, this person
Right.
definitely
You're not
doesn't
meeting
have
that.
these things. So
Right.
whether it's going to be light and fluffy or nothing, but I really think that will help you to progress, because it's so hard to get the image of like Idris Elba out of my head. Like, that's who I want to be my partner, right? But
Talk about
Idris
change narratives, right? Like we
but
have this
Idris might
like,
not have those things,
it
right?
may not,
And so
right?
we get really
We get
confused
caught
by
up on that
looking at the
part.
exterior
Yeah.
and not thinking about, all of these, I said these were my
Practical
top 8 or
things.
top 15, and this person, oh, he looks really good, but
Mhm.
he might not be those things. And you have to recognize that early and fail fast and get out of there and move on, to be open to and that's the third thing, letting go of the baggage, forgiving the men from the past, the women from the past.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you have to be BFS with them, but one thing my father used to say about love and your exes is like, if I was driving down the side of the road and I saw him and his family broken down, he would stop and help me, and vice versa. If I was broken down with my family and there was nobody around for miles and they saw me, they would stop, right, and pick me up. I think really having to you don't have to, I'm not saying forgive and forget or that sort of thing, but when you hold on to that hurt and pain or animosity, you really truly are not that guy with the top 8 and that woman with the top 8. They've
Don't
walked
see
by and
them.
you're sitting here,
Mhm.
you're sitting here in
Yeah.
that energy and you've missed it.
Right. Which is
You're
true in
not
like any relationship, right? Like if you have that resentment for like a family member or even like at work, right? Like you miss opportunities and possibilities because that's all that's in your face, right? That anger, that resentment, which takes us away from this place of like love, which is like openness, right? And this unconditional space and like this
yeah,
expectation. I love that. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, hey.
Rocking and roll. Okay, would you leave the IG people? They should have been in the room. But really great stuff. And it applies single or not, because it starts with knowing yourself and knowing yourself enough to know your wants. Because then when you know your wants, you can put that out to the world in a way that people really have to fall in line and respect you, or like fall back because you're not checking the boxes. You're not going to dinner with me, honey. You ain't going to Senegalese, and this might not be it. Right? So I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And there's grace and flexibility, which I love that you're introducing too. Like we don't have to hold people to like these high standards, right? That we probably wouldn't even want to be held to.
Yeah. I would say the fourth thing I would say about love is, and what you're looking for is remember, like, this other person is human.
Right.
They're not Superman. They're not, they're as human as you. If you cut them, they will bleed. Right. And so letting go of this notion and idea from the movies, right, or whatever, that like this person needs to be perfect it's Valentine's night. He didn't get candles. He didn't get flowers. He didn't get a card or whatever. But like, maybe, whatever that he did, he decided to this morning wake up early and gas your car and wash it.
Right. He did your laundry over the weekend. Like you remembered to like put out your clothes, like whatever it is, like the little things are just as valuable, even if they didn't show up in this commercial way.
Right. And I guess the fifth and final thing, I don't know what time to have, would be, I really got into this whole love language thing. I'd love to hear how you said that. And I think about it. And I really think by knowing your love language and then communicating with your partner about what their love language is, that can get rid of a lot of the angst. You know what I mean? Like, because you understand that like for that person, washing the car and gassing it up for you is their love language by doing something that's they're a practical person, right? It's the same amount. It's probably more expensive than I saw roses at Kroger for what, 25, but getting the car wash is 40, gas is probably 50. You know what I mean? So like technically they actually spent more and they had to physically do something for you, right? So thinking about that sometimes and appreciating, you know, the person that you love for things that might not seem traditional or commercialized, letting go of these like notions and these ideas.
What it should be. Yeah. And my mind goes back to yesterday, we talked about like celebrating the small things, right? Because sometimes we're looking for this like ideal and we're not seeing how much we have right in front of us too. Remembering to come back to that and going back to love language, even if it's outside of your love language, it's still powerful in itself. And it's something we may have to like adjust to because it's not our language, but we've got to learn to see the value in that too. Amazing stuff. You just like rocking and rolling with all these gems. Y'all might have to go back and catch 1, 2, 3, and 4. But it's beautiful. But I want to get us through this conversation because this is just a little something to fill y'all cup. And I hope that you're already thinking about some things in terms of yourself and how you show up and your expectations. Let's see, we can do one more question. Sasha and I are actually working on a project together, our upcoming retreat, Renew, Connect, Restore retreat. You call that in the room who was here last year as well. And even this is something that she's been trying to infuse into the experience, right? This aspect of like love and relationships. So I'm going to ask you to share quickly why women need to be in spaces where they can explore this, right? Because for me, this is important for us to be able to come together. I would love to hear from you. Why do you think it's important?
So, you know, we hear the notion a lot of times, people say like, don't share your relationship with your friends.
Don't tell them who your man is.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. One thing I would say is maybe you don't have to tell the name or whatever it may be, but I do think it's important, right? Just like a lot of women go to their mom or their grandmother or a friend, I think that there's nothing wrong with asking people around you that you love and trust their advice and asking them about their relationships and love, about their love and getting, you know, some experience, because I'm the kind of person who I learn from others. So it's like, if you tell me don't take that left and jump off that bridge, I'm the kind of person that's like, I'm not going to take that left because there's a bridge I'm going to have to jump over. I'm going to go right. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's a person that you trust and you honor, but there are people who still want to take that left and check it out for themselves. But at least you were prepared mentally.
That information.
If you had the conversation with somebody about it, right? So I think you don't have to share things like name and details, but I think it's okay. One of the things, you know, my mom just passed, my grandma, and one of the things that I love is that I interviewed her about, how did you meet grandpa? Like, what was you guys' love story about? Like, what made it work? What didn't work? And I think that actually helped me a lot with my current like dating situation, right? So there's always benefit and there's always something special when women of color get together and lean on each other, because that's just been a part of our history forever and it will always be. So I think that, you know, it really just can re-energize you. It can really give you information or even just like a way of thinking that you might have not thought before, especially with somebody who has more experience than you.
Right. And you may have to discern who that is, right? But even in, you know, bad relationships or things that didn't go well, there's still lessons, right? So your story is valuable, even if you feel like, well, I didn't do it right or it didn't work out for me. There's so much that you still have to share. And there's this richness in our stories. And we talked about that yesterday too, where there's like healing power in our stories, but we've got to be comfortable to pour that out, you know, and that's why we love spaces like this, that you have the opportunity to pour and receive. Right? It's so much of us that just want that wisdom and really like are desperate for like that mentorship and guidance. So don't hold it. Stop holding it on. Like pass it on. It's the best thing that you could probably do in this lifetime, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to drop in the chat and I'll put it everywhere that we are to the information there for the retreat. I think that's also going to be a great space for us to really kind of learn from each other and have the opportunity to talk. I think Tasha's going to be leading one of the sessions as well. We're talking about this in terms of relationships and life and all these beautiful conversations. So we'd love to have you guys there, or at least come and learn about it. All right. So, all right. as we're getting ready to wrap, is there anything else that's on your heart, Sasha, you want to share? And while you do that, for the folks listening, if there's something that kind of stood out for you, a aha moment while she was chatting, please take a second to drop that in the chat or comment area for us too.
Oh, yeah, let me check out the comments.
But what is your last gem nugget for us?
Okay, ooh, pressure's on. I think the last gem nugget is one of the things I think is just being true to yourself and self-discovery. Sasha today is literally going to be a different Sasha tomorrow because I've had another day, I've had another experience. So don't ever think that you're I know who I am, I'm 40, I'm going to be the same person, whatever that may be. That's not necessarily true. And if you and you kind of block and shut down when you say that. I think the most important thing, especially as Black women, Caribbean women, what we can do is always be willing to continue to learn and be as open as possible. Because when you are, what can come in is just like so wonderful, and it could be so unexpected, and it could be the thing that you were like, no, I'm never gonna date somebody, I'm never gonna date somebody who looks like Idris Elba because they right? When we make up these like rules or things for ourselves, I think it really, the subconscious, the subconscious mind, if I sit here and say, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, your brain doesn't know the difference from like your heart and like how it processes. And when I wake up tomorrow, I literally could have those thoughts, and you're being probably a little bit more into the science than I am. I can't remember all of it now, but that really is a thing. So when people, when you see Mary Jane from the show putting all these post-its up and people saying their manifestation, I used to be one of those people that was like, this rah, this is crazy. How could that work? But I promise you, if you wake up every day and tell yourself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself every day, you're training your subconscious to believe that and feel that, and you'll exude that. And so I think, words are powerful, and you really have to mind what you're saying and say only positive, wonderful things to yourself over and over and over. And I promise you, it'll become a habit, and you'll start to like emulate it.
I love it. I love it. So ladies, we're going to be leaving out of here speaking over ourselves in a different way, right? I love you, right? And think about what you want. I think this is another way of creating the vision, right? What do you want so that can really come to life for you? Starting with yourself first, right? Knowing you so that can really come to life for you. What do I want? What do I enjoy? What do I want more of? And speaking more of that into your life. Thank you so much, Sash, for dropping some gems on us today and reminding us to just like love on us. Woo, I love it.
I have one more thing.
Oh, girl, you got more. Don't you have a date? You have somewhere to go. I'm trying to get you out of here, but go ahead.
I highly, highly recommend. My lovely roommate got me this book for Christmas, and it was really, really awesome. So Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. I recommend everybody to read that book by Kamal Rivkant. And I think it has, I probably took a lot of stuff that I said today from there, not even realizing it, but I highly, highly recommend that book because I think that's a perfect example of what love actually is when you read that book. Love yourself like your life depended on it.
Like your life depended on it. Love yourself like your life depended.
Actually, if everybody that's in here, we'll do a raffle, and I will actually send a copy of that book to someone who attended today.
Oh, I like that too. And I can also do that. So we can do 2 people. I'll do an audiobook.
Okay, and I'll do it. I'm a hard copy girl.
Oh, bam. All right, cool. So maybe it could be you, which is awesome. So love yourself like your life depended on it. All right. So I'm going to say, here's what we're going to say, to follow Sash and follow myself. So this way we can figure that out. And then we will pick one of you guys to share. Of course, we see you in the room too, Miss Colette. Yeah.
And we can
Sash, tell them where to find you. I'm sorry.
I dropped it in the chat. You can find me at I am Sasha Smith and at PeachValley Pro.
Yeah.
IG. Let's have a conversation. Tell me your love stories. I love love. I got my MSW because I wanted to be a love and sex relationship therapist. I still plan on doing that.
I think it'll happen.
Oh yeah, older. I do it now for free, basically. So I want to hear all your love stories. Message me. I will reply back. It might take me a little longer, but I will reply back for all your messages. So yeah, follow me, tag me, tell me you love the chat, what you loved most about the conversation today. I'd love to hear it.
Awesome. So thank you so much again. Love and confidence definitely goes together. I think it's essential ingredients for personal growth. We just dropped some gems. We just dropped a book for you. We dropped an opportunity to get the book, right? So there's no reason, especially as women of color, that we can't cultivate that for ourselves, right? And I think the more we do that, the closer we come to just confidence, right? The closer we come to stepping into everything, our relationships, our future, and really being resilient and claiming all the things that we want, right? And within that, of course, being a part of really strong networks. We are here for you guys, and having the right mindset to do that and knowing that anything is possible. Thank you guys so much for joining us again tonight for Confidence in Color. We'll be here all week. I'm Amanda Flood, your curator and host, honey. And thank you again, Natasha Smith, our beautiful guest, networking strategist, real estate professional, investor, owner of PeachValley. Thank you for joining us for Love Actually. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank y'all.